Hi, in today's video we're going to take a look at enabling video thumbnails in file managers on Linux, as well as on Emacs using the diode file manager and the media thumbnail package. So what I'm going to do is switch across here to Nautilus, which is the GNOME file manager. And by default, when I went into the file view of a directory containing a video, it was just showing a generic icon next to the video file, and I figured out the reason why that is because I didn't have ffmpegthumbnailer installed. So the thumbnails for the videos are usually created with ffmpegthumbnailer or another method, and the issue was the setup didn't actually have that package installed by default. So after I'd installed ffmpegthumbnailer, in Nautilus you have two views. You've got sort of a list view and a grid view, and you'll see this better in the grid view. So when I switch to the grid view, unfortunately it's showing a frame from the video that's actually black. So I think from memory Big Buck Bunny actually fades up from black, and so what's happened is it's generated the video still from the beginning of the video, so it's black. And there is actually a option in the ffmpeg thumbnailer command to actually set where the thumbnail should be taken, the beginning, the middle, and the end of the video. But basically this is the grid view, and I'll show you. Let me come into another directory. Tech videos. Okay, so you'll see this better here. What we actually have is these thumbnails, and you'll notice that they have this film strip effect by default set on them, and I think there's actually an option to configure that. But out of the box, this is what it does, and what you can do is come up here and select the icon size. You can see I've got this set to the maximum, so if I increase it the maximum, you'll see this is the maximum size that the Nautilus file manager is actually going to show the thumbnails at. So what I want to do is actually show you the location where the thumbnails are created by default for these previews. So cache, home cache, and I think it's thumbnails. It's here somewhere. Put it in this view, it's easier. Thumbnails, okay. So in home.cache thumbnails, this is the location that the Linux file manager, in this case Nautilus, is creating the cache directory for the thumbnails. You've got three directories: fail, large, and normal. Okay, so these are all small files. Blank. Blank. Okay, so these are the fail ones. Then what we have is large. See, these are... So if you have a look at the size of these, you'll see that the actual image size is 256 by 144. Now, let me see. I don't know if there's a configuration file for ffmpegthumbnailer. Let me just switch across and show you the ffmpegthumbnailer-h. So the options the script actually takes are sort of like an input file and output file. So, you know, the video file and the JPEG you're going to create. The thumbnail size. So you've got the thumbnail size, the time to seek. So this is what I was talking about. See, by default, it takes a screenshot at 10% into the video, which is why Big Buck Bunny was black, because it fades up from black at that point. Image quality, create movie strip overlay. I think that is what these bars are, the movie strip overlay. So I don't know if there is a configuration file that lets you adjust the size of these and to remove these strip borders. If I go into view, okay, so there's the thumbnails you can, and there's the normal. So got the thumbnails, and as I said, by default they're 256 by 144, and I can't see how you can get Nautilus to create bigger thumbnails, basically. So come back into here, switch this to grid view. See, this is the maximum size we can go because there's no more plus button there, and you can see they're not that great quality, the actual thumbnails. You can see a bit of pixelation, and you've got this annoying section down here. So that's GNOME. So what I want to do is actually show you video thumbnails in Emacs Diode. So again, what we're going to be doing is using the media thumbnail package. So this is the Git repository here, Jojo James media thumbnail. We've got media thumbnail here, and what you'll see is these are images here, but you'll actually see there are thumbnails next to a video link. So this is basically how you set it up. The dependency is ffmpegthumbnailer. So what we've got down here is the use package example. What I'm going to do is actually take you through how you get this set up. So you don't actually need to use straight because the package is available. Is it on Elpa or Melpa? So let's have a look at the use package. So what we got here is these first three: diminish, commands, config. So the other thing is, with use package, you should have ensure T. I've got that set globally. So we've got the diminish and commands, which I've copied. And then we have this section down here in it, add hook, diode mode hook, media thumbnail diode mode. And what that does is that automatically enables the media thumbnail package to create the thumbnails from all the videos in the current directory. So every time you go into a video directory, it's automatically going to create the thumbnails for you. I didn't want that functionality. I wanted it to come up as a regular list view and then have a keyboard shortcut to execute the ffmpegthumbnailer command to create all the screenshots of the videos in the directory. So that's what this does. This automatically enables the mode whenever you go into a directory with sort of media, basically video files or sort of images. And I just found it a bit sort of off-putting. So what I've got here is these couple of commands. So there's a couple of things you can do here. We got, let me show you here the one I haven't got here. So let me just switch back. Thumbnail image width. So what we actually have is thumbnail size 0 for original size, default 128. Image quality. Okay, so have we got it listed here anywhere? So what we basically have is there's another option. There's two options that control the size of the image. So by default, what happens is it's going to take a screenshot at the full size of the video. So if you've got a load of videos that are 1920 by 1080 in a directory with diode and you run the media thumbnail mode, what it's going to do is it will take the screenshots of each of the videos at full size 1920 1080. But what we're doing here is using setq media thumbnail image width 480. So what it's going to do is actually display them at 480. And so you may be asking, why not just create the images at 480 and display them at 480? And the answer is you actually get better quality. You get a lot sharper images if you've got a 1080p image and you've downscaled it to 480 rather than just showing the 480 image. So there is an option. Let's have a look through the package. Yeah, media thumbnail size. So that's the one, original size of the video. So what we've got is an option, I think it's media thumbnail size, and that controls the thumbnail is actually the size of the thumbnail, where the other option, media thumbnail image width, controls how that image is the size it's displayed in Emacs. Okay. So that's why I haven't changed the media thumbnail size, and I've left it sort of the default, so we'll get bigger images, and I'll show you the difference between how they look in Emacs and Nautilus. So the next thing we have is the media thumbnail cache directory, and by default this is set to create a directory called cache in your user Emacs directory. So your user Emacs directory is typically going to be .config Emacs if it's following the XDG specification, or the older path would be .emacs.d. So what it would do is it would create a cache directory of all the thumbnails in your Emacs directory, and that's not something I wanted. I didn't want to clutter that directory up with a load of thumbnails. So what I did was actually change the location to be temp ffmpegthumbnailer. So what you'll see here is media thumbnail cache directory, file name temporary file name directory, and that corresponds to the temp directory on your system. So rather than hard coding in temp, you may have something that's like var temp or var run temp or something like that. So this should take care of different paths. So this will create the ffmpegthumbnailer directory in the temp directory, which means that because I have my temp directory to be cleared at every boot, it will delete the ffmpegthumbnailer directory and all of the thumbnails every time I reboot. If you don't want that, then don't put it in the temp directory. Adjust the path. So instead of user Emacs directory, you could save it to something like cache thumbnails, which is the default location created by Nautilus, but the file structure may differ. So maybe .cache ffmpegthumbnailer is a better option. But those are the options down here we got set with setq, and the final one is setq media thumbnail diode should hide details. And what that means is, if I come into, so I'm in this directory here, and this is diode, and what you'll see is I just have the file names listed. If I press Shift 9, what you do is this will show you the long listing, as it were. So what you can do is set diode to hide the long listing by default, so it just looks like that. So let me have a look. Diode. Can't remember what it set. There's an option to hide long listing by default. Yeah. Okay, so the option is diode hide details mode 1. So basically what that does is that hides the long listing, that hides this view and sets it to this. I think there's some other stuff here you can have a look through, but the reason I mention that is because what happens is when you run the mode in a video directory, what happens is it will automatically enable long listing view. So if you've got it set like this and with the short view and you run the media thumbnail command, what it does is it will switch the view to a long listing view. So what we have here is where's my thing gone now? Media thumbnail. So what we got here is media thumbnail diode should hide details FN ignore. So what that does is that hides the long listing view and sets it to the default, not the default, but the shorter view. And what we got up here, okay, so because we're using diode, we're using the media thumbnail package with diode. What we need to do is actually enable a keyboard shortcut to enable the thumbnails view. So what we have to do is use with eval after load diode, which I've already got set up for some other stuff. At the bottom, what we have is define key diode mode map control XM media thumbnail diode mode, and that's the keyboard shortcut to toggle the media thumbnail view. So I better sort of show you how this looks now. So if I come into tech videos, okay, so this is the sort of default view that I've got set up for video files. So that's the default out of the box, but I prefer that. So you've actually, when you're navigating the files, it's right flush on the left of the screen. So the issue is when you've just got a view like this is can't get any visual reference of what the video is about, any clue. You could look at this, a preview and go, there, that's the video. So what I'm going to do is Control X M. Give a second. Okay, there we go. So what you'll see here is the video thumbnails have been created for all of the videos in the directory. And the way that it works is on the command line, you can run ffmpegthumbnailer, input video file, output.jpg, and it will create a JPEG file in the same directory as the video file. So the advantage of this is it's not creating a video JPEG for each video. Those are stored in the cache directory. And what you'll notice is I can still move up and down here and actually play the videos. So if I press L on the keyboard, what it will do is it'll open the video with MPV on my second display. So as I said, the advantage of using Emacs diode with the media thumbnail package is that you can actually set the size of the thumbnails to much larger than you can in Nautilus. The other issue is with Nautilus you have a grid view, and that doesn't really make sense in Emacs because you just want to be sort of scrolling up and down. But these are all video thumbnails that have been taken at 1920 by 1080 and then displayed in Emacs at 480, so they're scaled down by a quarter. And there isn't really an option I could find to, for instance, set the text to the top, as it were. So the only option you really have is the image padding. You've got some which by default is 5, which is why you can see the D's not quite up against the image. But there isn't a way easy way that I could see to get this text to float to the top like that. The other issue is if you have long file names here, they will go onto the second line. But you can see these images look sort of really good. So if I come across to Nautilus and show you the so this is the view we have in Nautilus. This is the maximum size that we can put these to. We got this annoying movie strip effect here that I can't figure out how to get rid of. So this is the view you'd be working in Nautilus, and then you double click the video manually, going through each one of these like that. However, in Emacs, got a much nicer sort of view here. You can easily scroll, and I can press Control XM to disable the view of the thumbnail. So as I said, the cache directory, if you want to keep all the thumbnails, don't put the cache directory in your temp like I did. I do that on purpose. It wasn't a mistake. I just wanted to clear out all the thumbnails sort of automatically. So Control XM, you'll see it comes back straight away. It only takes a second the first time that you actually run it. So if I come across to the downloads and Control XM, if that shows a black frame, yeah, yeah, because it's using the same sort of default start location for ffmpeg as was in Nautilus. And we'd come back into tech videos. Yeah, comfy UI. So this is doing a whole load of videos. So the advantage of this is that you've got a much better kind of view of what the videos are. Just having the listing and load of file names. You know, sometimes you don't remember the file name of what you're watching, whereas you'll actually remember a still from it. So you can easily come up and down like this. Oh yeah, that's the one. And as I said, you can control the size of these thumbnails. You can, as I said, by default, it's creating them at full size and we're scaling them down. So I did a quarter file size, so that's 480. You could go 6, which is at 320. So you can have 320 width for the thumbnails, but so this is one thing I wanted to mention. If you've got a long file name, it's going to wrap over to the second line here. Ideally, what you'd want, what would be nice, is to actually have this floated at the top, maybe kind of in a table view with the text wrapping. Obviously, it'd also be nice if you could extend the functionality to call ffmpeg on the files to get the maybe the file size and the duration of the video, like if it's a 30-second clip and minute and a half, that sort of thing. But this basically just shows the thumbnails. As I said, you can easily scroll up and down, and this is what I was kind of, let me go back up, shot there of a person. Okay, so you can see the advantage of having the bigger thumbnail that's actually downscaled from 1080 is you get a really nice clean image. It's not pixelated. Okay, so beware of the bunny, nice and sharp. And again, you can come out of this if I press H. I'll come out, and by default, it goes back to this view. So as I said, if you have add hook, diode mode hook, media thumbnail, diode mode, what will happen is every time you go into a directory like this, it will automatically run media thumbnail and generate all the thumbnails. So what I want to do is actually come across to temp. Okay, and what you'll see here is we've got a ffmpegthumbnailer directory, and that corresponds to this temporary file directory ffmpegthumbnailer. So that's the thumbnailer script here. So what you'll see is what it's done is, instead of having 3 separate directories like the Nautilus one does by default, hang on, let me just show you, cache cache thumbnails. So Nautilus, the GNOME file manager using ffmpeg, creates a .cache thumbnails directory with frail, large, and normal like this. Okay, so that's got 3 directories in the thumbnails directory, whereas the thumbnailer directory that we set up just by running concat file name directory thumbnailer in Emacs has everything listed in one directory in a flat list, so there's no subdirectory. So you couldn't mix this directory with the cache directory that's created by Nautilus. So as I was mentioning earlier, you can set, by default it will use cache in your Emacs directory to store everything, but it's also creating thumbnails and stuff. If you're using Nautilus or another file manager, it's creating another cache directory which is cache thumbnails, but as I said, the file structures don't match, so you probably wouldn't want to stick them together. But anyway, what I was saying is what we've got here is the images that are actually created. So what I was saying is the images for the thumbnails are actually taken full size, sort of by default. So you can see we've is it image diode. I forget how image diode works, but I can open all these. And the good thing about this is you can see all the text is really sharp. So these are all the Comfy UI ones. The DaVinci Resolve ones. Okay, so you can see here a good example. We've got an interface here. The DaVinci Resolve, you know, image of the person, and okay, so these are the sort of downscaled ones. So you can see here, everything is still quite sharp. So that's why you probably don't want to change the option for the initial image size. Let me come back to the... Yeah, so you can set the media thumbnail size to 480 and also set the media thumbnail image width to 480, and that will take the image at 480 and display it at 480. But as I said, I found you don't get as good a quality thumbnail when you do that. And the files that it actually creates aren't actually massive. Yeah, 500k. There's one that's a meg. But yeah, this space is cheap. So that's how you can set the image width or the initial size that it creates the image, the cache directory, how you can hide the desired long details view, because otherwise it will actually jump if you don't have it set. If you got it set to the short view, it will jump to long view and back again, which is a bit annoying. And as said, the other option is media thumbnail diode mode. If you have this section here set by default, it will automatically create the thumbnails whenever you enter a directory of media, like images or video files. So I'm going to close that and come back in. So I can just run Control-X-M, see here, and it takes a second to generate. Control-X-M, come out. Okay. So it's just easy to kind of identify the videos rather than just looking at the file names. As I said, you can still sort of go back out. I did Comfy UI. Okay, there we go. So there's some Emacs sort of videos. So it's just nice being able to have this kind of view, and it's actually much better the view you get here than in Nautilus. So we got, this is the view in Nautilus. You only get you got list view. You don't really get the thumbnail, so you have to put it in grid view. Click here, and then that's the maximum icon size we've got. So these were all taken at 256 width, and they're stored in the cache thumbnails directory. I said you can't increase the size of this anymore. So what we have here is we've got the thumbnail and then the text underneath. So that's the view you're going to get in GNOME, and you're going to have to sort of, go through menu, click each one like that to interact with each sort of video. So you're going from left to right. Whereas the view we got in Emacs, you see we've got really small images here with this annoying movie strip thing here. We don't have that in Emacs. We just have really nice sharp screenshot. I suppose if you were to see, I only get about 2.5 images here, and that's basically because I've got a wide image at 480, so that's 480 270. So if you had a smaller width image, then obviously you'd see more sort of thumbnails per screenful, as it were. But it's easy just now to actually come and scroll up and down. All the evil key bindings still work. You can open all these videos. And it's much easier when you've actually got a video with someone in it, as opposed to something that's just text. It makes it really quick and easy to sort of identify everything. So yeah, basically two-step process. If we're just setting up, if we're setting up a file manager like Nautilus or Thunner or Nemo or whatever, if they by default haven't got video previews, then install ffmpegthumbnailer. So, and then the next step for Emacs is just to install media thumbnail using use package or the old school way. What we've got here is media thumbnail diode mode. We've got the image width set to 480, the cache directory, and importantly, the media thumbnail diode should hide details. And again, that's related to the long list view. And then up here, what we have is, where is it? Eval after load diode. And the reason I had to put the keyboard shortcut in here as opposed to using bind in use config was because it wasn't actually taking effect using bind. So I've moved the keyboard shortcut, which is Control XM, to run media thumbnail diode mode, which generates the thumbnails. It toggles the mode on and off in the with eval after load diode. So you just need this section of code here, and then the keyboard shortcut listed there. And again, have a look at there isn't a lot of documentation about this, so your best bet is just to actually have a look at the sort of code and see what's going on. So you can see here you've got the image extensions, the video extensions. So these are the supported file types for this package, so that it can actually show thumbnails for them. So you can see you've got a long listing down there. If I can hate these scroll bars to the right. So you can see you've got a long list there. MemPeg, AVI, MP4, yeah. You've got a load of stuff there. Thumbnail size, cache directory, image width, processing, the media thumbnail image margin, that's the margin between the image and the text, I think. Should hide details, that was what I was talking about. So it gives you the short view. I haven't used any of these ones. You can ignore aspect ratio, change the executable name. So sometimes packages can be installed with slightly different names on different Linux distros. So if that's the case, and then yours isn't called ffmpegthumbnailer, it's just called thumbnailer or something, you can change that there so it'll work. This allows you to show animated thumbnails. So media thumbnail diode animate thumbnails. What this will do is it will animate GIFs and perhaps WebP. Is it? Yeah, WebP or WebB, I forget. Q. There's the command. Yeah, all the settings you really need are sort of up the top. So that's the package, and it's on Elpo or Melpa, so you don't actually need to use straight or anything like that, but you can if you want. So yeah, that's how you can have video thumbnails in Linux file managers, but more importantly in Emacs. So it's really nice. Once you've got ffmpegthumbnailer set up, just put in the code for use package for the media thumbnailer package, install it, have it set up by default if you want, or with a keyboard shortcut, and you can adjust the display width and also the initial size it creates them, and also the location of the cache directory as well. But as you can see here, I think actually taking the images at 1080 and then actually displaying them at 480, which is a quarter size, gives you really nice sharp images with sharp text. Whereas if you just took the screenshot at 480 and displayed it at 480, you would have sort of less sharpness in the images, I think. I don't know if I've got any other. I haven't really got any video movie files here, but here you can. This is about Corpor AI. You can see your cursor position there, and said the only issue with this is the text kind of goes over the other line. So ideally what you'd want, as I said, is a way perhaps to have this, it'd be nice to have this kind of positioned up here. But these are the actual links. So you couldn't have it kind of displayed as a block in the center because that make navigating a bit annoying. So just up here and then onto the next line would be great. And they said for additional bonus points, it'd be nice to have perhaps the actual file size as well as the video length. I think there's Dervish. I think there's also Ready Player as well. Yeah, I did try Dervish once before, I think, but you can see this is sort of Dervish. It shows a sort of video thumbnail in a preview mode, so I think it doesn't do exactly the same thing. Media thumbnails will display thumbnails for all of the videos in the directory at once, whereas I think what this does is it just shows the preview in a right-hand column when you've got the video selected in Diode, as opposed to showing a load of thumbnails. I may be wrong, but this kind of seemed a bit overkill, so that's why I went with something simpler. But you can see here, for example, what would be nice is to actually have some of this info, and I believe what it's doing is using media info, which is a command line application that gives you media info about a file. So it'd be nice to sort of maybe pinch some of that functionality, so you kind of got the sort of similar sort of layout in Emacs. But anyway, that's enough of me chundering on, and hope that helps you get set up with image video previews in either your Linux file manager or more importantly in Emacs using Diode. It really makes a nice difference. Having the thumbnails, especially if you've got a load of videos, makes it easier to just scan through and see what you want to watch. Anyway, that's all for now. I'll stick links to all this under the video and catch you on the next one.